Alrighty guys, so we're going to go through a quick video, just a bunch of frequently asked questions to help finish up the POBs. We've done some extra work to the POBs, and then I'm just going to go over a whole bunch of quick gearing, crafting options, a couple of the updates I've made, a few opinions, and try and explain the Ascendancy choices to you, the strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, I'm just going to go through a bunch of things, a bunch of frequently asked questions. First one is going to be mana issues or something like that. A few people have whinged about it. Okay, so these are called minus mana cost rings. They've been upgraded in the next expansion or whatever in Scourge League. You do one unveil. You run syndicate members. You find an Elrond. If he drops a unique amulet or ring, he's very, very likely to give you a minus mana cost thing. You unlock this once. Please, for the love of God, make sure you put the point in. You go to this crafting bench, and you'll instantly unlock the top tier. Apparently, according to the thingo, unless I read it wrong. And then all you got to do is put 4C on your rings and you'll have minus mana cost, right? So when people are complaining to me about mana cost, I'm assuming that they're talking about standing still, right? So they're standing still, right? And they're going, man, when I hold down my right click, you know, I can't sustain, which I already am. Did I accidentally leave my replicas on? I did. Yeah, whoops. That was meant to be a little bit of a surprise for later. Well, I'm going to leave it in the POB. But okay, so spoiler alert, you can sustain, it's fine. But you have just two minus mana cost rings and, you know, oh my god, I'm struggling, I can't sustain. Every now and then, with the fastest bow in the game, it's twice as quick as everything else, I can't sustain mana. Well, I think the first piece of advice I'm going to give you is you should never stand still on any build in the game, realistically, right? So we're just going to quickly go pop over here. We'll do this in maps later. But all I'm going to show you is like what a traditional playstyle looks like. Also, we're not res capped or anything right now. I've got a bunch of experimental gear on, and I've taken my dodge off. I'll go into why later. But essentially, right, this is what your playstyle is like. Look, I'm not even using my mana flask here. I want to show you something. I'm going to say hands up. You guys see what's happening here? If you've ever wondered why we use Cool Rain instead of a slow bow, it's because this makes it so that your Mirage Archer can do the work for you. Remember, man, one of the most OP things in the game is being ranged. So it's very important that I show you this. Have you guys noticed I haven't taken a hit yet? You probably think, oh man, it's because he's dodge and evasion capped. I got some scary news for you. Aside from the elusive, which I just forgot to take off. I took off my acrobatics. Took it off, okay? So I took it off. To stimulate this, obviously it would be like, so we have no spell dodge, no nothing like that. And I'm basically just not getting hit across the board, right? Obviously there's probably change in maps or something like that, but we don't really interact as a range character with the mechanic of damage itself. Can I just go straight back to town here? Sorry, this is going to be a long video if I keep fucking making more sloppy like this. But anyway, so basically, if you're standing still, you're likely to get hit. If you don't have any defensive layers, you're probably going to get killed. So the first thing I'm going to say is, for the love of God, make sure you're doing something like this. This is typically how your playstyle looks. Oops. You know what I mean? And then you're out of mana or whatever. But it's like, oh, sorry. So when you're using the Cool Rain, if you're wondering why I was getting mana back a lot quicker, it's the mana gained on hit. You have mana gained on hit, you have like 5 arrows coming down, sometimes they overlap, so you get extra mana. Doesn't matter. Point is, right, like Cool Rain actually has okay-ish mana sustain. A couple other things that are going to be in the expansion are going to be things like the primal spirit we take. So you gain 4 mana per enemy hit with attacks if you've used the mana flask recently. This is, so you know how I was sustaining mana before? Well, now when you use the mana flask for 10 seconds, you're going to be getting double the effect of this. So that's already there. When you get, obviously, a Conqueror's Efficiency or you go for a third craft, it gets even better to the point where you're already sustaining. So we can already sustain, okay? So like, not only should you not have that issue in the first place, but you're going to over-sustain and it's only going to be better in the upcoming expansion. On a 6-link, on a Quill Rain, or you could swap to a slower bow if you're still not confident, okay? So if you're still not confident, feel free to use a +3 bow, okay? Like, that's just straight up. There's no minus mana cost or anything like that. This is how the skill already works. You could also, for the sake of argument, if you really wanted to, get a fourth minus mana cost. And God forbid you didn't want to do that, there's also a Clarity Watcher's Eye, or you could run Clarity. There is a million options at your feet. Mana will never be an issue in this game. On top of that, I'm going to quickly show you guys a Corpse Walker thing. But, so this is for another option if you guys really want. This is something I'm saving for the champion, so this is why we have the gear in the first place. I take a Disciple of Kitava thing, so this is for the champion version I was making, and this thing's going to consume a corpse recently and recover 5 life and mana. It has a more damage multiplier if you haven't consumed a corpse recently. We negate that with the Corpse Walker boots, so they drop a corpse at my feet and they constantly give me back my stuff. So in the event that you wanted to automate gameplay because, I don't know, for some reason you're a panicker and you go, oh no, I've lost all my flask. Pair of boots, and now you don't even need flask. If you really wanted. So if you want even more options, if that's not enough for you, you can do this, okay? So, that's mana cost. Completely taken care of, okay? Next one is going to be, obviously changing up the tree a little bit, going for extra life and stuff like that. Guys, if you're not happy with the amount of life on the tree, here's what you're going to do. You can just chop off this entire section here, right? Drop some damage. Maybe you just want to drop this entire section. Just drop your damage. Pardon me, drop your damage. It's not a big deal. Make any adjustments you feel you need to make, right? You're surrounded by life nodes. You can come all the way over here to the Scion wheel, right? And you can just start pumping them in, right? That's level 87 right there. And now we're at 5,000 life. Maybe you want a little bit more. Feel free to drop some more damage. Get rid of these. Get rid of your rolls, man. Get the entire Scion wheel. Whatever you feel comfortable with, right? Like whatever helps you sleep at night that you don't like about my build, you can adjust it. That's why it's a flexible tree. Let's say, for instance, right? You hate spell suppression. You think it's shit. That's great, man, because we pathed right here. Now you don't have spell suppression, you have spell dodge. Just like that, 50% spell dodge. That's better than what you had before, right? The tree is heavily adjustable in all like, you know, you want some you want to fit in another aura and get a vitality like we do in the later POB, you can just grab it. You've got some nice jewels that you got for cheap, add them in. They're 1 point away. There's 1 point right there. Like, it's not a big deal, okay? So you can make whatever change you feel you need to make to the build. If you want to go ailment avoidance, right? You can ditch this. And you can grab this, and you could spend 10 points, which I don't think is worth it because ailment avoidance is, you know, it's good. You want no corrupting blood? Go for it, man. And grab this. Sorry, you grab this. And then you can put this thing back on, right? So obviously we're over points here, so just make whatever changes you feel you need, right? Like if you want ailment avoidance more than life, you know, you've got enough points. That's what you would do if you want to be ailment avoidance. The tree is very flexible. It's built that way, right? Like, you can do whatever you want. If you're happy with 1.7 mil damage instead of 2.5, and you want ailment avoidance and like 4.5k life or more, just keep dropping damage, man. Knock these nodes off. Do whatever you have to. It is a flexible tree, guys. All the foundation is there. So whatever change that you know, hate about my build or whatever concerns you have, just play around with it. Don't be afraid to make whatever adjustments you feel you need. The template's there, what sort of gear you're looking for is there, and then you can just work backwards. Whatever you feel you're lacking, make the changes. And I've gone and shown you that, you know, you're like 1 point away from pretty much everything you want. There's more life here. It might be a little bit hard to go grab Ghost Dance and swap up all the gear, so obviously that's a little bit more advanced. So maybe avoid Ghost Shrouds if you can, because you don't just grab them for no reason, you'd have to do a gear swap. But outside of that, you know what I mean? Like, you can make any adjustment you feel comfortable with, and that's what the POB is for, right? Probably might have scuffed this whole thing up. So quickly, we're just going to go over Ascendancy strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so this is, you know, based on old knowledge or prior knowledge, which is all irrelevant in the upcoming league, just for reference, right? But this is how it used to work, and to some degree, even while I'm still looking at the trees, it's still true to this day, right? Like, there hasn't been that much change where it's like, oh man, you know, this one's gutted or this one's worse and this, that, the other. But I'll just go through a couple simple truths. So we're going to start with, obviously, the Raider. The Raider, in my opinion, is the king of clear speed and early access to free damage. Every POB seems to reflect that. Just happens to be the way it is, except for those guys that give themselves crazy gear and 5 pods and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, there's a couple of dudes that are like, I've got a champion with 8 mil damage at the start and like 9 million life. It's like, yeah, no, it's not real, man. Anyway. Alright, guys, so I'm just going to go over the strengths and weaknesses. Raider is pretty much the king of a clear speed league start strategy, right? So at the start of a league, usually for a soft core player, for a soft core mentality, the idea is get a reasonable and respectable amount of life, like the 4.5 or whatever we already have, you know, 5, whatever it is, right? Get like 1 mil. You don't even need that much, right? To do tier 16 maps and most bosses, you can get away with a lot less, right? Like, I have an excessive amount of damage because I'm trying to move quickly through the campaign and leverage me being a ranged character. So what you should do is have some sort of I need to unlock my Atlas strategy, sell maps to new players that are still trying to get through their Atlas, get watchstones quickly and start rolling them, whatever it may be, selling hunter bases before they're available to anyone else, maybe getting in through Delve quick or something like that. Whatever your strategy is, it should involve some form of getting through the content quickly. If your goal is boss killing, this is probably not the best build. I would say it definitely isn't, right? But you can do boss killing on this thing too. Another super big plus side to it being Toxic Rain is its ability to run all map mods. Now, obviously, there's combinations you definitely want to avoid, right? Like, when we're running no regen, we really want to rely on our Mana Flask. A Mana Flask is super reliable, but if you're a new player and you're panicking and you're constantly pressing your Flask, you're probably going to be running out of Mana Flask, right? Like, if you've got, you're in like tier 16 maps, and for some reason you didn't listen about the minus mana cost and stuff like that, you've pressed all your flask in a reduced flash charge map, you're probably going to have a hard time on the boss. You know what I mean? I would just portal out, come back in and reset the flask and you should have no dramas, but I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of player you are. That's your deal. You'll have to work that out on your own. But the point of it is, a clear speed strategy works incredibly well with a raider. Now, we're going to talk about Deadeye. Deadeye is if, you wanted single target. Basically, there's the Mirage Archer thing that basically says you can get 3 more Mirage Archers. As you've already seen, a Mirage Archer is incredibly strong. When you get 3 of these on a boss, it allows you to stack Toxic Rain incredibly quick. Regardless of overlapping pods or whatever you guys think about that, these 3 Mirage Archers are consistent. They're actually better than you as a player because there's 3 of them, and essentially they don't have any downtime. They don't have to worry about dodging. So as you're moving around and attacking with this thing, you're putting down 3 Mirage Archers that are always just attacking, which is very consistent and very strong for bossing. Bosses that move around a lot are kind of annoying, but that's beside the point. So pretty much, Deadeye's strength is actually the bossing. He gets like a mid-level clear speed, so he's not as fast. He doesn't get a lot of free dodge and evasion and free frenzy charge stacks and stuff like that. But he excels at early game bossing. But he's still not the best bosser, so normally I use something else. But a Deadeye is basically just the best single target you can get on Toxic Rain, especially early game. Okay, so then there is Champion. Champion is the best defensive option. It literally has half the damage, and it is a lot slower. I recommend this to new players that are not confident in their ability to leverage everything like we are, right? I want to say a good player, right? I'm probably shit, realistically, right? But I'm leveraging the thousands of hours I have in the game for me just to go like, I don't actually need to interact with these monsters. I'm not going to run into a pack or something like that, make a mistake and get killed and go, what happened? I'm not going to roll my maps so ridiculous that it's like, oh, it was minus max with triple physical gain is X. Man, my dodge layer failed. It's such a shit build, and it's like, you were rolling like the craziest map ever. Of course, one thing that touched you was going to kill you. You know what I mean? I'm not one of them players. I sort of know what I'm looking at, and I can leverage that. If you're a newer player and you can't do that, you're still going to die if you ever roll those map mods, by the way. But it's going to be much slower, a much nicer pacing. The damage will be worse. I don't recommend this for League Start, but I do recommend this for learning the game. So it's more of a noob-friendly idea rather than a League Start, I want to get ahead of my competition kind of build, right? So if you're a really advanced player, Raider is definitely the go. If you're a beginner player or you're not sure or you want to ease into it, play the earlier versions. I would still, even if you're a new player, still recommend to you the Raider because I do believe you should learn how to play a Raider. It's very, very invaluable. Oh my god, how is this 13 minutes? Alright guys, so play a Raider if you can. Champions for beginner players or people that want a much more relaxed play time. Deadeye for single target. Trickster. Trickster is probably one of the best things to have EHP-wise in the mid-game and stacks incredibly well with things like Headhunter. So what the Trickster sort of excels at isn't really the early game, and it isn't really the late game either because it falls off a bit. But what it does have is a fantastic middle tier or mid-tier version that basically has a massive amount of HP, which is not free, by the way. I do want to mention this because you need gear for this to work, but you can get a bunch of HP and a bunch of ES, and then you can leverage some of these layers like the Ghost Shrouds and stuff, which yet again, you have to spend points to get to. People think that it has the same damage, and then they spend all these points, and then they try and make it up on gear and a bunch of other stuff. The reality of it is not only are you going to be investing in the same life nodes, you're going to be grabbing wheels like this, and then you're going to have to sacrifice some of your damage nodes. But what you do get is once you've got, a good bow, that obviously, we ramp up the damage a lot. You got a cluster jewel set up, which is usually a massive chunk of damage, and then you invest the rest of the point into things like Void Barrier. You come up here, you grab Soul Thief, you get Ghost Dance, and then you drop a little bit of evasion on gear, because obviously it takes up a prefix, and then you try and get evasion ES hybrid gear with big life rolls. You can make a very high EHP character. If you get your res rolls done right, you can put on a Headhunter, right? And Headhunter basically steals things like your life gained is extra ES. And this is where it really becomes one of the smoothest mid-game mappers, including when the content gets difficult. Its damage is not fantastic. It's like the winner of nothing, but it really is a serious contender for one of the most comfortable mid-tier builds you can get. So if you're not planning to go, the full extra route and put like 100x into the build or more or anything like that, although if you want to get the Headhunter, you will be. Like, let's say you want to sort of stop around the mid-tier or just play around with a Headhunter. That's where Trickster lands smack bang in the middle. You don't need crazy investment like a Pathfinder to really, super juice or anything like that. You would say that maybe Raider has a weaker mid-tier because you can't get like crazy amounts of life, but you get like flat mitigation layers or something like that. I don't know what your argument would be, but in my opinion, Trickster has this really, really comfortable, good mapping mid-tier that I think is personally, its best attribute. It can really, really have a super fun mid-tier. It sort of drops off a little bit late game because you're obviously a bit point starved by the time you get this gear, and it doesn't work too well without that gear, in my opinion, right? That's the way it was, and that's kind of my explanation of the 3 ascendancies of choice. There is obviously Pathfinder. Pathfinder is fantastic. It's very new player friendly. It just basically makes piano flasking easy. I would say its early game's a little bit weaker now compared to the Raider, and the Raider is just really good damage off the bat. You can use the Pathfinder in mid tier and most likely in the high tier because you essentially end up getting a Raider on a chest piece. So if you have an Onslaught Flask and you're a Flask Finder, well, now you've got Onslaught, right? So that's this Ascendancy done. And then, if you've got a Frenzy Charge chest piece, well, now you're a Raider. It's the same thing I do in the mid tier, right? You've got Onslaught and you've got Frenzy Charges. You can get those on affixes on gear later, along with all the ailment avoidance and stuff like that. Although right now, Spell Suppression is the new thing. So that's basically where Pathfinder lands. I haven't got a super min-max POB to test it anymore though, so I'm not sure where Pathfinder lands. I know it's very comfortable and it'll still definitely work, but basically you get access to things like this 15% more damage multiplier, you get extra movement speed and attack speed you wouldn't otherwise get, you get some reduced elemental damage taken and obviously some of the best flask in the game, and you get ailment avoidance whenever you're using a flask, which, hey, is every 10 seconds, so, you don't even need to get ailment avoidance, you've already got it, so, really, really solid character as well. You pretty much can't go wrong with Toxic Rain, alright guys? I feel like you can't go wrong, especially when you realize how you're scaling it and what you're doing. So yeah, that's basically the Ascendancies, pros and cons. Alright, I'm going to quickly go over what I did to the POBs in the I'm going so fast and I'm still going slow. Anyway, we've added a note section, and this note section is to make leveling easier for you guys, alright? So hopefully the POBs are updated. Let me know if they're not, because I have done a bunch of work on them. Things like, picking up iron rings early. You can also mule, by the way. I didn't write this in there, but you can mule early to get some extra wisdom scrolls and stuff like that. And basically you can do this. But what you want to do is you want to pick up 2 iron rings early to use it on a Shrapnel Ballista. This makes bossing easier. Like, I think it's a fantastic tip. Get rid of Puncture after Brutus. Go slower in Act 1. Make sure you're level 12 so you can pick up Toxic Rain. Being over-leveled on a Chaos character makes them easy to level. These are like fantastic tips. Once you've done that, you've got your Toxic Rain, you can drop the Iron Rings and the Shrapnel Ballista and turn them into Resistance Rings. I don't explain how to do it. I'm kind of expecting you to sort of take the reins there and do it yourself. But these are tips that I think will really help. They're not done yet. Obviously, like for me, I just wrote down what I could think of really, really quickly. I'm trying my best to get all the information out there, but I am out of time. So this is going to lead into another point soon. On the mid-tier version, I've added a note about how to make the crafting, how to craft the bow. There's also a fantastic video out that just got put out today by Lighty. That's basically how to craft all the different bows and how cheap they are. Your literal best bow in the game is roughly 10x. This character succeeds for many reasons, and I'll explain why. But this is the reason why we use Radar. It has a set amount of cost that is so cheap in comparison to everything else to do all the content in the game. If you can't do the content on this character, usually the problem will be most likely that you're not well versed enough in how to use the character or how to do the fights. Because everyone that's ever played this build has always come back to me and said, this is the greatest build I've ever played, why is this in the game? You know what I mean? But anyway, So that's some of the POB updates I've done. I've also gone through, refined the trees. I fixed up the bow. I can't even remember. I've just been going, balls to the wall. I do eventually want to strip back this gear and maybe make it a bit like less budget. Some people said the mid tier was too little. Some people said it was too high. Everyone is, like some people's league starter budgets are 20x, and I'm just like, I don't think that's realistic. That's why I went for more like a you can self-craft all the gear kind of deal. For nearly every other craft you're going to do, nearly every other craft you're going to do on the low tier, right? It's either aberrant fossil spam. So all you're going to do is just buy a hunter base, right? They might be expensive, I don't know. It's going to be a TR league for sure, right? And all you're going to do is aberrant fossil spam if you've got aberrant fossils, or if you come past a harvest craft, just do a reforged chaos, man. Like, this doesn't have to happen immediately. You will get through a lot of the game without a single hunter piece. That's how good Toxic Rain is, okay? So essentially, it's get your uniques. This is actually written in the guide already. I won't even bother boring you with it because we're crazy short on time, despite, feeling like I'm flying through it. But yeah, so basically most of the crafting is aberrant fossils and reforged chaos. There's a couple of tricks you can do with eye levels and stuff like that. I will leave that for you guys to research. I've put how to craft a bow in the guide, so the bow is the big deal. Obviously clusters, just reforged chaos more common. Whenever you can get them, there is some stuff to do with the eye level. A player skill disclaimer. Okay, so basically all I'm saying, right, is I made this POB for me. Okay, this is what I want out of this build. This is why I was saying earlier at the start, adjust it however you see fit. If you don't feel you need that damage, fantastic, change it. For me, this is the optimal setup as an experienced player to go through the campaign as fast as possible, whilst relying on my, mechanical knowledge of what's dangerous, what to look out for, where not to step, how to path, all kinds of things, right? If you don't have that knowledge and you're not feeling confident or you feel like you're dying, if you can illustrate the problem like, oh, I need more life, just change the tree. Don't be afraid to make whatever adjustments you feel you need to fit. If it doesn't work, just try again, guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's a learning experience. I don't expect you to get it right. I don't expect you to be able to do Cyrus 8 on the same budget as me. If you can and you learn, fantastic. But if not, make whatever changes you feel, get more gear, whatever it is, man. Also, anyone that tells you, like I've seen a lot of people making videos and showing the character in game. I don't know how they're doing that because they don't have the updated tree. So are they showing you a dodge character or an evasion character? You know what I'm saying? Like, put that out there, guys. Like, whenever you're showing, like, someone's showing you a standard character, going like, this is the build, yeah, this is it working right now. I'm like, but that's not next league. Kind of weird. It's definitely not the same pathing, same tree, same anything. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, guys, all right, so. Oh yeah, I have been working on the other build guides, okay? I have been working on the other build guides. I did say I was going to get them out. I have a fully working tree. Sorry, the colors are like half done. I was still working on this. But like, look, I actually have a full working tree. We have a bunch of overcap. I have all this stuff. I have swapped up gear using the Corpse Walker boots like I was telling you and the Katava Supple. I actually have everything ready to go. And I talked to my friends, got some feedback just to sort of put the feelers out there. And I pretty much said to the guys, I have not had enough time to test this. Not to test everything. Like, I know a lot of it's already working and stuff like that, but I haven't leveled this thing from 1 to 10. Haven't played experience it. I have decided not to release the POB until much later. Okay, guys? So, also I was doing a Cocknova POB. I've actually got a Trickster I'm working on. So I am going to eventually try and nail all 3 different variants. I'm not going to bother with Deadeye. For me personally, it's just more single target. Just do it for bossing if you want. But yeah, I was going to nail the big 3, so it was going to be a Raider, a Trickster, and a Champion. I'll make POBs for all of them and make them as in-depth as I possibly can. But for now, I'm just going to have to leave it. There is not enough time, guys. It is literally already the deadline. I've put in, 4 solid days of work. I've put in a lot of information. I've tried to help people out as much as I can. And yeah, because I couldn't test the build, I didn't feel comfortable enough to sort of ruin my one selling point, which is my integrity. Just to try and like, I don't mind doing it with the Raider because I'm, super confident and I've tested a lot of this in the game. But with the Champion, I just wasn't sure if people are going to like this level of damage. I think a lot of people say they want less damage until they play it. And they kind of realize that really good damage is kind of its own level of defense. But anyway, I digress, guys. We're going to have to stop it here. It might be like a little bit of me mapping without even any defensive layers whatsoever. But for now, guys, because I couldn't test the build, I wasn't happy to release it to you guys. So hopefully this clears up any worries you guys have or any concerns. If not, I'm sorry, I didn't do a good enough job, but I did the best job I could for me, and that's all that matters in my opinion. Alright guys, peace out, thanks for watching, I'll catch you all later.